Now, first of all, we're going to ask the wives, what do they wish their husbands would figure out? Let's begin with the wives' wishes. Her first wish would probably be that her husband would communicate and take a genuine interest in her. And so right now, some of you guys are saying, well, Reverend Lynch, what does that have to do with physical intimacy? Well, and your wife is sitting there beside you thinking, hello. This is what I've been trying to tell you for years, but you never listen. In a woman's mind, it has everything to do with it. Communication is the key. Husbands, you need to understand this. You need to understand this. You need to understand this. If you would just listen to your wife when she tells you that I want you to take an interest in me, take an interest in my life and in my pursuits, to become a sounding board so that I can bounce stuff off of you, talk to you and talk to you frequently, and to hear you call me sometimes and say, I was just thinking about you, baby, and didn't have nothing on my mind but you. Don't have nothing much to say, just thought I'd call and holler at you. See you later. You know, sometimes, husbands, when we speak to our wives, we can be so short with them. As I said this morning at the 8 o'clock worship, I have been guilty of that across the years, of being short and curse and terse with my wife when she said something to me. And sometimes, husbands, we talk nicer to strangers than we do to our wives. So I say to all of you husbands, choose your words carefully. Be nicer and communicate with an attitude of gratitude that honors rather than demeans. We need to honor our wives in our conversation, in our communications, rather than to demean our wives. Further, God wants us, Brother Towns, as husbands, to understand that the seriousness of sex and the joy of that marital privilege and the importance of communication in that. He wanted us to understand that so much he wanted us to understand it, that he included an entire book on sex in marriage. Let me say this to you. God ain't wrote but one book that he devoted one thing to like he did this book. Prayer, holy dancing, singing in songs and all that, one book. And that book is called the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. A whole book on sex in the confines of marriage. Whole book. You find a few pages about prayer somewhere in the Bible, a few things about something else, but in this, God thought this was so important that he made a whole book on it. I ought to just stay right there and preach my sermon just right there. Because we got too many people getting hung up on prayer and fasting and holy rolling and all that other. And let me tell you something. Anytime that you're married and you're coming to church and you're in church and you're doing more praying than having sex, something wrong with your marriage. You got a problem. And some of the imagery used in this book, which is a diary or a personal journal of a married couple, that's what the Song of Solomon is about, is somewhat erotic. And I love eroticism. Nothing wrong with eroticism. Eroticism is a good biblical word. Preach, Lance. And yet all of it is within the confines of the marriage relationship. Song of Solomon talks about the importance of both verbal and physical foreplay in the relationship. Oh, I love it. I'm getting warm up here. I'm getting warm up here. Let me say this. The message, if I paraphrase it, is a little easier for us to understand. The 4th chapter of the Song of Solomon begins with the husband speaking to the wife. Now, I want you to listen to the words of poetry as they are read for us.
My dear lover glows with health.
The husband speaking to the wife.
Like a flock of goats in the distance, streaming down a hillside in the sunshine. Your smile is generous and full, expressive and strong and clean. Your lips are jewel red, your mouth elegant and inviting, your veiled cheeks soft and radiant. The smooth, lithe lines of your neck command notice. All heads turn in awe and admiration. Your breasts are like fawns, twins of a gazelle grazing among the first spring flowers. The sweet, fragrant curves of your body, the soft, spiced contours of your flesh invite me, and I come. I stay until the dawn breathes its light and night slips away. You're beautiful from head to toe. My dear love, beautiful beyond compare, absolutely flawless.
Hey, absolutely flawless. This man in this verse goes down this woman's body, and brother, did you hear what he was saying? And praises her. And the passage closes with him saying, you have captured my heart, and my dear friend, you looked at me and I fell in love. Only one look my way and I was hopelessly in love. That's a bad sister. And that brother is rapping. I'm telling you. If you men would learn to talk to your wives like that, you won't have any more problems. That's communicating with her face to face. And husbands, let me say this. If you were to talk like that to your wife with genuine sincerity, you would capture her heart. Josh McDowell, one of my favorite poets, said that the chief dysfunction in failing marriages is not sexual, it is verbal. Did you hear what I said? It is not sexual, but verbal. That's the chief dysfunction in failing marriages. Fulfilled marriages are enjoyed by those who share their feelings and have a great amount of openness with their spouse. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 9 says, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of your life. When my wife and I are communicating, staying in touch, preach Lance, throughout the day and getting each other's advice and counsel and things going pretty smoothly, and marriage is great because we are verbally interacting. Can I get a witness? One brother back in the day wrote a book, Sex Begins in the Kitchen, not in the bedroom. Sex culminates in the bedroom, but sex begins in the kitchen. Can I get a witness? And the premise of that book, Sister Towns, is that romance is an all-day process. In other words, what happens in the communication outside the bedroom sets the sexual climate for inside the bedroom. And husbands, let me say this to you. This is what your wife wants to know and wants you to figure out. When you care and lovingly serve your wife, you are displaying that at that particular moment, she is much more important than you are. I love my wife so much that my needs are always secondary. My wife's needs are primary. If I'm making her happy, then I am happy. My happiness comes from making her happy. That's my joy, is to see her joyful. That's my joy. If you want me to really have what I need to get, it's for me to know that she's getting what she needs to get. If you want me to be pleased, all I need to know if Sister Jake Barbara Lynch is pleased. And if she's pleased, then I am pleased, because my only job 24/7 is to please her. That's why I exist, and for no other reason. No other reason. Not my children, but my wife. Not my grandchildren, but my wife. And all of you who are talking about, well, you know, the children are here, and when the children are here, that's crap. If you put your wife on the back burner until the children grow up and expect that the children are going to appreciate you for doing that, you got another thought coming. Because as soon as they can get out of there, they gone. They ain't thinking about nothing. And then you look around at somebody who you should have been talking to for the last 15 years, and you are complete strangers. Because there's going to be some guy that comes by there in baggy pants, and all that you have done for that daughter to rear her up and to refine her, and all of them ballet classes and all of that refinement, he'll come by there with a comb in his head, with his hat turned around backwards and pants down to his rump, and she will go with him. I know I'm right. Your wife was there first, before the children, and your wife will be there if she lives after the children. And it ain't biblical to start doting on your children over against your wife. Preach, Lance. You notice I ain't take my hand off the book yet. This is the book. And see, since you don't know your Bible, you have no idea about this kind of relationship. That's why your marriages are failing and are in trouble. Your priorities are mixed up. Husbands, listen to me, husbands. In a small group Bible study, one of my white preacher buddies said they had a study with some couples, and one week he said they were talking about romance. And one of the girls said, you know, when my husband helps get the children their baths and puts them to bed without asking me to do it, you know, I find myself very attracted to him. That night. Yeah, it's like an aphrodisiac, this thing. Come on me. I found myself very attracted to him that night. Can I get a witness? And the pastor said he thinks that every week, every guy in that room was constantly giving their kids baths. Said, little boy, I already had a bath, Daddy. Get in that water. You ain't no bath. Get in that water. You need a bath. Get in that tub. Can I get a witness? One guy said he was in there splashing water, trying to make a noise. She says, what are you doing? I'm just giving him a bath, honey. But in those instances, husbands make certain that you don't have an ulterior motive. Instead, do what Paul commanded in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Paul said, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it. Christ sacrificed and he served the church. His love was evident through his motives, and they were pure. And that's the way your motives towards your wives should always be, husbands, pure and undefiled. And you know what? You husbands, wives also wish that their husbands would cuddle with no strings attached. Yeah, they wish that you would cuddle with no strings attached. I'm trying to tell you now what your wife wants you to figure out. Women need affection. So when you're walking to your car after church, hold her hand. Or you just pass by her in the hallway or in the kitchen and give her a hug. Men and women are very different emotionally. I'm preaching here today. Especially in this area of cuddling. Now, when a woman says, I just want to be held, you know what she's really saying? You know what she's really saying? When a woman says, I just want to be held, she's saying, I just want to be held. She ain't saying, take it to the next level. This ain't the time to head to the bathroom or the bedroom. No. She just wants to be held. That's all she wants you to figure out. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 28 and 29 says this, Brother Towns, husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds it and cares for it just as Christ does the church. Our wives ain't impressed with how successful we are, or how many deals we've closed, or how much money we've made. What gets their attention is when we leave our world and, like the Son of God, we enter into their world. Enter into their sphere and enter into their interests. And we get involved in what they like to get involved in. And you know, for a long time, my thing was my thing. You know, I tell you that Saturday's my day, don't call me because that's my cowboy day and all that, and it's still true. But guess what I find myself doing now on some Saturdays, especially if my wife is in the house. And if she comes downstairs to where the rec room is and she wants to be with me, and I can tell she wants to be near me, and I'm watching a good old bam, bam, bam. You know, I find myself picking up the flicker, and I'm moving over to HGTV. I'm getting involved in her world. I've learned now how to like and appreciate them decorating kitchens and tearing down stuff. I mean, it's just now becoming second nature to me. And you know, things go better when she sees that I'm interested genuinely and not just doing it to try to, you know, in her world. They don't always have to be in our thing. Listen, we need to sometimes get involved in what they like to do. Can I get a witness?